Welcome to another edition of Trader Talk TV. Today we've got Yoav from LiveRail. Yoav, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, pleasure.
And before we just jump in to talk about what we're the main topic of today, what exactly does LiveRail do? And can you give me a bit of an overview of them, please?
Sure. So LiveRail, 100% publisher focused. We don't actually sell any product to the buy side. The whole purpose of the LiveRail solution is to help publisher monetize video across channels, and focusing really on two approaches. One is direct sold premium, and this is our ad service solution, and the other side is helping them enter or manage programmatic selling in the most efficient way. Okay,
so today we're going to talk about the video private marketplace. How does it differ from a typical display private marketplace? Because obviously people think it's the same thing. And then maybe talk about a use case for a particular broadcast and how they might use a private marketplace. So let's just talk about the difference between display and video, first instance. Do you need a...
So when we talk, I think when we talk to publishers, from a commercial business perspective, they actually look at it in a similar way. They look at the private marketplace as something that will allow them to leverage their assets in a better way, and get let's say preferential commercial relationships compared to an open marketplace. In that sense, video is not different to display at all. Unfortunately, like in many things in our industry, when it comes to the piping and the technology, etc., that's where the difference really is. So I think the display world, the programmatic display, because it's been going for a while, there's a lot of adoption to open RTB as a standard, and it's pretty much defined what the buyer will get when he's requested to bid on inventory, and what the buyer will return if he's interested in that piece of inventory. So this will include, of course, pricing related information, floor prices, etc. But one key thing that you get in display is you get a decent level of transparency about who is the advertiser behind the bid. And that is naturally important because publishers, whether in display or in video, want to manage conflicts between their programmatic channel and their premium channel. So
OpenRTB obviously allows you to see who the advertiser is, but that's not available in the video piece.
It wasn't implemented widely, so actually when we look at LiveRail today and we enable publishers to connect to 90 different platforms today in video, which doesn't sound that impressive when you think of display, but actually for video it's a pretty significant amount. We couldn't count on OpenRTB and actually on all buyers returning the information about the advertiser across the board, and therefore we had to deploy a different approach. We had to build a product that actually gives publishers this level of confidence that they can manage block lists no matter who the buyer is, and that was critical.
So let's talk about sort of a use case in this scenario. Like, how would a broadcaster, for instance, obviously broadcasters are quite important, particularly in the UK and in Europe, because they hold quite a lot of inventory. How would a broadcaster sort of use this product and, as you say, manage that possibility of sales cannibalization?
Sure. So I think it's naturally more relevant for premium publishers and especially broadcasters in mind, because for them the risk from programmatic is far greater. As we know, they actually clear a lot of the available inventory up front. So programmatic at this point of time will not represent the lion's share of revenues for them, and therefore they're even more cautious about making sure there are no conflicts. Now, no conflicts really has two aspects to it. One is the pricing perspective, making sure that inventory that we sell at a very high cost and high yield directly in an upfront way will not be cannibalized just because the same inventory can be accessible at a lower cost. So that's one concern. And the other concern is when they sell shows in a kind of a sponsorship way, both for linear and for digital video, how do I give the guarantees to the sponsor that his competitors will not appear next to that content when programmatic is being used? So we can just take as an example, if Audi is sponsoring a show which is The Voice, they will want to make sure that Mercedes and other car brands will not appear via programmatic channels.
So how, do you have this built into your system, or I mean?
So I think if you want to look at the publisher inventory, and for the sake of the drawing, let's say that the premium stuff is here, right at the bottom, and then this is what he's considering doing via programmatic, right? So this is let's say here we have some kind of a sponsor. We'll keep the same example, which is Audi, and now you have a bunch of buyers, programmatic buyers. Sorry, my handwriting is absolutely horrendous. So you know you have a certain amount of buyers that want to access this inventory. So whenever an impression is being available, we have what people know as request to bid, right? So now the question is, the buyer wants to buy this impression. What do we get back from him? So the LiveRail approach is actually to say, well, here's a way to solve it. Whenever for the first time the buyer is responding, instead of sending it back to the page, actually the creative goes to a solution which we call Checkpoint. Okay, so Checkpoint is a solution where we basically think of it as quarantine. This is a place where we curate all the creatives coming from all programmatic buyers on behalf of this publisher.
Right.
So the first time we see a creative unit coming from any buyer that is connected to LiveRail and that the publisher chose to work with, we actually automatically block this creative. It goes to this Checkpoint solution, which is actually kind of the dashboard of all third-party video ads.
Right.
We curate that creative, we assign and...
Do you do that manually, or is it all automated?
We do that manually.
Okay.
We actually have 3 teams globally today that manage that. And if clients want, we give them access to do their own curation. Right. Which actually, if you think about the UK market, is an important request, because there is regulation in the UK that long-form video needs to be curated by the broadcaster.
And how long does the curation process take? I'm just thinking about latency here. Like, you know, once the bid has been requested, how long does it take?
So actually, the first impression is, so to say, lost. Meaning, we're not trying to curate it in real time.
Right.
We actually block this buyer. Right. So if a buyer returns creative for the first time and it wasn't curated, this buyer will not win this impression. Okay. So the publisher is forgoing this impression for the sake of making sure the block list is implemented. Right. So on the first impression, this will go to Checkpoint for curation. Right. The second time this buyer will want to return the same creative, it's already been curated, so and therefore we can check, is it part of the block list? So if we take Audi, if a VW creative was curated and the buyer is trying to put it through again, it will be blocked. But if it's an ad for Unilever or P&G, which is not a concern for Audi, it will be allowed through.
But I mean, if they're losing that opportunity to target that particular user, would it not be better to kind of maybe get all these creatives pre-checked by the publisher, and then you can obviously do the instantaneous marketplaces, or is that a process that you have in place as well? So
you could do that, and nothing prevents you from actually sending to Checkpoint everything and pre-curate it. Yeah. And it will save you. It will naturally save you some time, and I think we will get there. I think we'll get to a place where, and again, we know that there's only certain brands that actually can afford even buying this kind of quality inventory, right? So it's not like we will need to curate ads from 2,000 advertisers. It's probably good enough to take the top 200 from a buyer and curate them. Until now, we haven't seen a strong demand for it. And honestly, the reality is that the buyers have enough different ads to try and send. Yeah. So there's always enough that already has been curated. Yeah. And therefore, our publishers don't see a reduced fill rate because of the application of Checkpoint.
And what about do you think that if OpenRTB was adopted in video, this whole process would not be necessary, because you'll be able to sort of see the information coming through in it?
So I think definitely we're going to get there, and I see we already see some more implementations of OpenRTB. Naturally, the fact that the buyer declares who the advertiser is still not 100% guarantee that is the case. Right. There is always some value to manual curation. I actually think, and especially if we look at the UK market, again, because of the regulation that exists here. If you think about Clearcast as a body that was created to help people comply with this regulation, I think there will be some publishers that will still choose to apply such a product rather than count on OpenRTB. So the time will tell. But I think this year, 2013, and I definitely think into 2014, this will still be used very heavily by premium publishers.
And in terms of adoption that you see in the European market, how popular is the private marketplace video? Is that the way to go? Like,
it's the only way to go. Right. This is one of the big differences we see between the US market and the European market. So the LiveRail approach is saying, look, here is a tool to manage programmatic selling. It's a tool that allows you to do private marketplaces, and there's of course an open marketplace that we offer. And we are indifferent as to how you want to monetize. But most deals we've done this year in Europe focus a lot on the private marketplace capabilities.
It's control from a publisher perspective.
Yeah, control, very cautious approach. It's not only control in terms of who is accessing. I think actually a lot of the discussion is control in terms of what data is being exposed. So I think one of the most common ways by which premium publishers choose to venture into programmatic is to say, actually the level of transparency in data that I will share in a programmatic channel will be reduced compared to what they see in the direct sales, and this is how I will protect myself. And this level of transparency is only relevant for private marketplace, because at least LiveRail in the open marketplace demands full transparency. So if you want to differentiate your programmatic from premium using transparency, then open marketplace is not the way to go. The only way you can do it is via private marketplaces.
Okay. Yoav, thanks very much for that explanation. Great to get an insight in how the video private marketplace works, so thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And that was Trader Talk TV, and we'll hopefully see you next week. Thanks.